Hi there, and welcome to the next episode of Diary of a Wayshower and myself, Lynn Flowers. And I thought I'd talk about in this episode about how hard it is to let go. I do apologise if you do hear sound in the background. It's extremely windy today, so all the trees are really creaking, and I'm surrounded by trees, and it's really high winds actually. So if you do hear a bit of creaking and groaning, it's not coming from me. It's coming from outside on an extremely, as I say, windy day. So letting go, the art of letting go, which is interesting. I'm using the analogy of, or mentioning someone again who I mentioned the other week, Mark Atwood. I watch his Diary of a Conspiracy Theorist, and he mentioned something a few days ago about it's like hanging on to the edge of the swimming pool and not getting in because you're scared of the water, or you're scared whether you're going to be able to stay afloat. So you cling to the side of the swimming pool and you never let go. And that's a really good analogy for sort of that courage that is required when we have to let go. We have to let go of something we love, or let go of a habit, or let go of a person, or let go of a relationship or a job. And with what happened to me last year and me having to let go of, the old life completely, really, it it really is a walk of faith, of deep faith that you're going to be okay and that you are going to be held and supported. And when I had to leave, and I went after I'd left. If you haven't listened to the earlier episodes, this might not make as much sense. I suggest you go back and listen to episode 1 and 2 and 3 probably, because they really go into more detail about what happened to me at the very beginning. And anyway, I had to let go. I had to leave, and I left and went straight up to London to visit my son. It was Easter 2024. And I was safe there. I knew I would be okay. I was assured that I would be okay. My guidance told me that in my heart. So I stayed for a few days in like a small hotel. And then I knew I didn't have a passport, and I'd left it behind. And I was being guided that I needed to leave the country for a while. Now, I didn't know how long I would need to leave for, and I know that you've got the Schengen area in Europe, so you can only stay in any of those places for 3 months in total, and you have to come back. But at the time I was being guided to leave and asked to leave the UK, I had no idea if I was coming back. I had no idea, because when I asked the question, what if I need to stay out of the country longer than 3 months, and I was told, well, a way will be found for you. The divine will open the door, and it will find a way for you. And I knew that. I knew that if I needed to stay out of the country, then I would be out of the country for longer than that, and a way would be found for me. So it was quite scary, really. I applied for a passport up there, managed to get an Airbnb for 10 days so I could stay in the vicinity of near my son. And I applied for a passport, had to go down to have an interview at the passport office, which I felt very nervous about, seeing I was a targeted person, because that would flag up that I was applying for a passport immediately, I would have thought. Anyway, I got approved on the same day, thank goodness. And in fact, my interview for the new passport was on 4-4 Gateway. the 4th of April gateway. And then I got an email the same day saying my passport was being done. I'd paid for fast track, so the passport would be with me within 5 days, which it was. And I got the passport, and then I decided to book a ferry to Spain because I was being called to go to Spain. I didn't know why, I just knew. And I ended up getting on a ferry, Brittany's ferry, from Portsmouth to, Bilbao, 36 hours sailing, but one way. I just booked one way, thinking, well, I'll get in. I'm sure I'll get in. If I'm being guided to go, I'll get into Spain. I had nowhere to stay. I didn't even know where I was going, and that I tell you, folks, was scary. I did have a friend in Spain, and I knew I was probably gonna contact him at some point. Not really on the basis of staying with him, but more of just like having a contact there, maybe finding a cheap place to stay, even though the money was just like, well, it was nearly zilch. I did have some. I had access to a little bit, but you know what it's like. I just booked a £350 one-way ticket to Spain with my car, and I took my car because it was the only thing I had, and also I didn't know where I could have left it safely with anybody, and also it had all of whatever I owned in the world was in that car, so I needed it. So got on the ferry, did the 36-hour crossing, but it was really interesting. I had my wedding ring still on at that stage, and I was guided to throw my wedding ring. I took it off my hand and I threw it out into the ocean in the Bay of Biscay as we started to come into Bilbao, a few hours before we finally docked. I was guided to throw it and ask for it to be healed and transmuted, and also it's symbolic of leaving the past behind, like let that go. You've got to let that marriage go. You've got to let that part of your life go now. You just got to let it go. There's no way you can get it back. You don't want it back. Let it go. And I threw the wedding ring over the side, which felt good to do that, actually. I think after that I was a little bit in a state, so I ended up going in the bar, if I seem to remember, and asking for a glass of rosé wine. And sitting there with a glass of rosé wine thinking, what the hell am I doing? What the hell am I doing? It was a nice crossing, actually, but on that ship it was really, really interesting that it was the Galicia, and there was like images of the shell of the Camino de Santiago way that comes from there, and it just like came out at me like a bullet train, because I'd had an experience during those 2 weeks that I was in London where I'd had a deep journey with the Councils of Light and the Great White Brotherhood and Sisterhood, and I was taken up to the High Council. Now, I'd never been in there before. I'd always ever just spoken directly to Sanat Kumara, who's one of the council members, and it was either him or sometimes Lord Sananda I'd spoken to in the past, and suddenly he summons me and said, come with me, follow me. So he took me through the White Flame of Ascension, and suddenly we were in the Temple of the White Flame of Ascension, and then we went up through the flame up to the apex of a pyramid, and of course we were going up into the councils of the Great White Brotherhood and Sisterhood, and there was a large crystalline table running right along with all these masters stood round, and I couldn't see some of them because it was so long, the table. I couldn't see who they were because it just went on and on and on. But I was up at the top end where I'd been brought in by Lord Kamara, and there was a master stood there with long grey beard and white robes who I'd never really connected to before, and his name was Zoroaster or Zoroaster. Um, and I now know who he is, but at the time I didn't know who he was. I just asked who is he, and the name came in my head. Um, and if I mean, I'd have to get my journal out to tell you what exactly they said, but from memory, it was sort of like you have just come through a huge initiation, and you have passed with flying colours, meaning I had the courage to, like do what I needed to do. Um, and he then, I was presented with these crystalline shells, and they were shells, like clam shells. And I was given thousands of them, and he was giving them me like and saying, take them into your heart space. So I took all these like crystalline clamshells into my heart space, not really knowing what the hell they wanted me to do with them. So I put them in, and there was lots of other things they gave me. They gave me a white crystalline shell-like tower, like a bell tower, and I didn't know what that was, and they gave me that and made me put it in. And then loads of pearls, so I took all them in. I just took loads of this stuff in. It's like geometry, really. I was taking lots of light council geometry and putting it into my heart space. And then they were just saying, you're going to be okay, everything's fine, you'll be guided, you'll know what to do. Now, this was before I was on the ferry. So when I was on the ferry and I started seeing all these shell signs on the sides of the ship, I sort of thought, this is connected. This is connected. And then I looked at the read up for that ship, and it was telling you all about the Camino de Santiago way. Well, I'm thinking, oh, this is interesting. So as you get off at Bilbao, you can drive right to the northernest part of Spain, and you end up in, they call it the end of the world, which is the place where in the old days the explorers would say it's the furthest northest point, and they couldn't see any land beyond that. And they would say it must be the end of the world, or, the edge of the world. That's what they called it, the edge of the world. And that's where I was being drawn to go. Now, that was a long drive from Bilbao. That was literally 8 hours drive from that bit we would be landing in the port and there. But they were saying to me, you're heading there, you're going there, you're going there. So in the end, I looked up on the ship hotels in that area, and I found this hotel right on the coast, right on the edge of the world, they call it. I can't even remember the town where I was now, but it gave you a sort of a route, and it was €22 a night, and it was a double room en suite, and off season. So I booked for 3 nights there. I ended up staying there another 3 nights after that, I think, in the end. And I drove for 8 hours. I don't know how I did it. I really don't. I should have stayed overnight somewhere in between, but I just was so determined. I was so sort of freaked out because I got through customs. I was fine. I had the car. I had my GB sticker on the car. Car was full of petrol. And then I just drove and drove and drove. And I think I stopped a few times for a sandwich and a drink. And I don't know how I did it really, but I did. And I managed to get there in the evening from the morning, and checked in the hotel. It was lovely actually, but I was in a hell of a state, as you can imagine. I couldn't eat. I had no appetite. I don't know. It was almost like I was in between the devil and the deep blue sea. I was in this void space, and I couldn't think straight really. So I had to be really careful with myself, and I just had to ground every day. I'd ground and I would do my meditation every day because I knew that was the only thing keeping me upright there and then. Because I didn't know which way was backwards or forwards or sideways. I was just in a total mess. And emotionally really, because my heart had just splintered into a million pieces, and I just I wasn't making sense of anything. I couldn't make sense of anything. But then as the day went on, the next day came, I walked down to the seafront harbour. There was nice little restaurants, they weren't expensive. There was a few shops. I sort of I perked up a little bit with the sun. I had no clothes with me for the sun, no shorts, no short cut tops, no sandals. I just had nothing, like you know. So I managed to buy, I think, a pair of shorts and a short sleeve top, and some, like loafer type shoes, that would just like keep me going. Thank God, thank God. Um, but I was called to that end of the world bit where there's a lighthouse, and it was really interesting because as I got there and started getting downloads, they really showed me how the Camino de Santiago way had been hijacked. Isn't everything hijacked? And they were looshing the light from the people walking along the Camino way that do their healing journeys quite often, don't they? Some people that have suffered grief will go and do the walk over a number of days and weeks. And that really, I wasn't being called to walk it. I knew that. I wasn't in any fit state to do that. But they were, I was to do some of that way and drive it. It was really interesting. And when I got to the lighthouse, there was, a sort of distortion there. And, even when I'm in my lowest state, what do they end up getting me to do? Grid work. But I think there was more to it than that. It was, you know how to do it. You can do it standing on your head. It will give you focus, and it will make you feel like you're doing something useful, right? Which gives you a sense of purpose that will keep you in alignment. I think that was part of it. And also, I then realised that my mother's line, and my mother was connected to this. And I was unravelling something that my mother was embroiled in. So I know that my mum was a high vibrational soul as well, but had been targeted herself when she was young. So I ended up doing some work there, and those crystalline shells that they put in my heart space, I now know, were for the Camino de Santiago way. So I ended up putting some crystalline shells down along that part of the route to counteract the looshing that was going on, which we cleared. I got confirmation. And we also shut down a portal on that route at the end there, that end route that was being used in a negative way. So that was really good. I'm so pleased we did that. And from there, as again, I was only eating once a day. I had no, I couldn't face breakfast, I couldn't face lunch. And by the stage I got to about 3 in the afternoon, I would be hungry, 4 o'clock. I would then know that I would have to eat just once, and that was enough. So I'd go down to the front, find somewhere to eat, and it wouldn't be anything big either. I think sometimes it was, I think I found some freshly battered fish with French fries, even though it was Spain, a bit of tapas, that was enough. I didn't want any more, and have a drink, and I was drinking water and things, and that's all I could do. And by 6 o'clock, I was done, come back, I'd get in bed, and I'd just sit in bed all night, Go, it was a bit of an existence, I must tell you. But it needed to be done. I was processing what had happened to me, and I was in shock. I was in real shock. I knew that, but I was very heavily protected. I could feel it. Uh, there was a couple of things that happened to me where I think I was being poked at by the other side, them putting a song on saying, "We're watching you, the police, I'll be watching you," by Sting and the Police was came on one particular afternoon when I first got there, and I just that freaked me out. But I was on tenterhooks. I felt like I'd been chased, uh, and you're watching your back at every moment. You're watching your back, um, but it seemed to be the right place to be, and it was the right place to be. And I did the rest of the Camino de Santiago, some of the route, and I drove through loads of other places along the route. Ended up in Santiago de Compostela, where the cathedral is, and that tower that they gave me, that crystalline white tower in my heart, was actually part of the bell tower of the bloody cathedral. Would you believe it? And there was something going on with the timeline, of that, and that's how they were hooked up to the portal at the end of the world bit of the Camino de Santiago. And so it was really interesting that I had to deliver a crystalline bell tower out my heart space. It came out, as geometry, and delivered it to the bell tower. So yeah, I did some work around there. I did quite a lot of work actually. And Catherine of Siena, is it Catherine? St. Catherine? Is it? She came up quite a lot. And Mary of Shalom. They were coming up, and James, the Apostle James, they kept coming up quite a lot as I was doing that work. So there was a link there to that energy, or an inversion of that energy. It's quite interesting. Yeah, I was doing that work along the kept me going, kept me sane, kept me sane, and by the time I think 23rd of April around there, I arrived at my friend's near Salou, and I got a lovely room and a sea view, and stayed there for the rest of the time till I was ready to come home again, which was in July, because I had to leave the country. And yeah, it's a bit weird. And I'd had a mouth infection that had been running for a while, and it had affected my two front teeth, and it had gone into my bridge on the left hand side. Now, the reason why I had quite a lot of missing teeth in my mouth, and I don't really want to go into the graphics of that, of what that means, right? But I'll just say to you is it's linked to the torture of SRA and MK Ultra, all right? So quite often they will target victims' teeth, and they will take your teeth out. I know that sounds terrible, but it's true. They'll take your teeth out as part of the torture. I don't need to go into any more details. You get the picture. And I had some teeth taken out as a young woman on both sides of my mouth, which were unnecessary, but it was done on purpose. I do believe. So I had a bridge put in 2009 on one of the sides to completely shut it up and close it and make it look, really good. And I think it was a 40 tooth bridge. And you're never going to believe this, folks. 2009, when I was waking up, the year I was waking up, I decided to go and get the bridge in. And what do? I get recommended to go to a dentist, recommended by someone who was a Freemason within that unit that I worked in at the hospital, right? I didn't know at the time they were, but they are. And the person that put the bridge in was so nice, so lovely, blah, 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 right? I probably without a doubt he was being used. And guess what they did? They put a tracker device into my bridge. No jokes, folks. They put a tracker device into my bridge that was invisible, like, so you couldn't tell it was there. And it would track me wherever I was on this planet, right? So they would know physically where I was. Even if I change my car or do this, it would be in my bloody body. Now, I get to Spain and my teeth are getting worse, and this bridge, it needs repair, because I've been to the dentist, another dentist, and he said you need to get this fixed and repaired. So I just had this burning like thing in me of fix your teeth, fix your teeth, fix your teeth, fix your teeth. It wouldn't go away. And I just had got my money from the sale of the caravan, right? And I didn't get a lot of money, folks. I'm talking like under £5,000. Yeah, I didn't get a lot of money. And I knew I had to get my teeth fixed, and it would cost some money to do it, restoration of teeth and stuff. But Spanish dentists actually are cheaper. And my friend recommended this dentist, who turned out to be amazing. He was amazing. Anyway, I was given the all clear. He's a good dentist. Go, get it done. So I get there. He starts looking at him, and he's saying to me, you've got an infection running right throughout your mouth, right? He said, and it's been going on too long. He said, and you're very lucky that's not gone up into your blood-brain barrier, because I can tell this has been going on a long time. So I looked at him. He said, what do you want to do about this? Because if I take this bridge out, and then he said, I can't, I'll have to put implants in, and they'd have to heal. And when he told me the price of the implants, I couldn't even afford it, to be honest, folks. You see, I'm being honest here, because I like being honest and transparent. It was very upsetting for me to realise that I couldn't have implants. So I had to have a top set denture, which was horrific for me. Like, no, I don't want it. But I had no choice. And also, I'd been told I had a tracker device in the bridge. So I knew I had to take the bridge out. There was no way I could keep that bridge in. There was no way, because there was a tracker device in it. And I'd been told that. They had actually told me that. So I knew that I had to get it taken out, and I had to have the bridge out, no matter if I had the bridge repaired or redone. He said to me, it's going to be virtually impossible to do that because your two middle teeth are done in too with the infection. So I'm going to have to go the whole hog and take out a load all at once. Well, I just had to go with it. I said, yeah, all right, do it. So that was awful. I had all those teeth taken out, and the bridge taken out at the same time. Thank God that went. That was a relief when that went. But God, did it take a while to heal. A month. And that was I had to go through that as well at the same time. And that was like in the June. I'd gone there in the April, and that was the June. But then by the time the first week of July came, I had my new teeth in. They looked good. They felt okay. And I just knew that the infection had gone, because he gave me some stuff to clear the infection. The infection had gone, so that was all gone. So it would be better for me anyway. The tracker device had disappeared and gone, hadn't it? And been chucked away. So that was gone. I had confirmed there was nothing else in me. Everything else had been removed and gone. So I just knew that was the final thing that had to be done. But that took up some guts too, folks, actually, to have that done. But I just thought, I can't face coming home and getting that done here. It'd be even more money, and also I don't think I could trust them. I don't know. Whereas I knew that this guy didn't know me from Adam. He didn't know who I was. He was a connection through my friend. I trusted my friend. I knew who he would be. He's high vibe, and part of the Emerald Order. And I thought, yeah, I'm gonna go with it. And I got my guidance to go with it, so I did. So yeah, God, so much happened. Um, and then suddenly I had a different smile. I had a different profile. And that was a bit weird looking at my face. And I looked slightly different. But it was a good thing, really. All I kept seeing was my mum. I just kept seeing my mum in the mirror, which was quite funny, really. Um, um, no offence, mum. Um, yeah, so that was an intense time. Uh, letting go, letting go of everything you knew, even your image that you, like the image of what you looked at yourself in the mirror for so many years with your teeth, and then suddenly you've got a new set of teeth and a new look. And like I didn't even recognize myself when I looked in the mirror. Like I'm someone different. Uh, I'm someone different. Um, but it did give me confidence. Actually, it did give me confidence to have those done. Actually, it did give me confidence to move forwards. It really did. It gave me a lot of confidence doing that. Also knowing that that tracker device had gone, and that was confirmed by someone else as well, who said yes, you did have one in there, and it was working and knew exactly where you were. So that just felt better. That I didn't want anything that they put in my body. Thank you very much. You know, I wanted to claim my body back for me, claim my sacred land back, totally under my control, no one else's. So it felt important psychologically to get that done while I was there, and I'm glad I did get it done there, because I might have put it off when I got to the UK, you know. But my courage was up there, so I sort of did it, and I'm glad I did it. Might as well have recovered in the sun. Might as well, mightn't I? And it was cheaper, you know, to have it done there than in the UK, to be honest. Would have cost double probably in the UK to get all that done. So, yeah, you know, I sort of went through that as well. And I enjoyed Spain. I enjoyed a different perspective, the sea, the sand. Um, I've always loved Spain anyway, so it helped me with my healing to a certain extent. I think just being in a warm climate with people all the time, I needed that. I needed that company. I needed that companionship, and also it was almost like he was protecting me as well. He said, "Come here, I'll protect you. You know, I'm here to help you be shielded." So I'm very grateful to him for that. You know, because it, you know, that's a nice thing to do for someone. You know, and I will always pay that back in the future for someone that needs me like that. So yeah, it was a weird time, but it was a bit of an adventure. And as I was leaving Spain, I had to drive from where that was across to Santander, where I was going to sail home on the ferry because I had to bring my car home. And I realised that you had to go over literally the Pyrenees nearly to get to Santander. And I realised that Lourdes wasn't that far off the beaten track. It was only an hour and a half away from the route they gave me. So I thought that's what I'm going to do. So I ended up going to Lourdes for 2 nights, I think, before I got on the ferry home. And that was so divinely guided, because Lourdes has always been such a PowerPoint for me. And I ended up driving to Lourdes over the Pyrenees. And I tell you what, that is one of the most amazing drives I've ever done in my life. Honestly, folks, to drive over the Pyrenees in the mist with the goats flying out in front of you on the road, not, you know, like I was driving quite slowly. The scenery was to die for. It was one of the most highlights of that. It was driving over the Pyrenees and then driving into Lourdes. I've been twice before and taken people on retreat there, so I know Lourdes well. And I found somewhere to park, found a cheap hotel, and you know what? I actually received an upgrade and healing in Lourdes that weekend. In fact, that was just over the 7-7 gateway. Yes, it was over the 7-7 gateway. You can imagine, can't you? In Lourdes, over the 7-7 gateway. And I received my angel wings back, my golden angel wings, which are part of your light body architecture, of your Christus light body architecture. And they came back to me because they've been taken away and cut off. Um, yeah, they can do that, especially when they SRA you, because they work on a light body level with you. They don't just work on a physical level, they work on an etheric and light body level with you. So I got my golden angel wings, light body angel wings back, and I went deep into the healing chambers of Lourdes on an etheric level, and that was really fascinating. I'd not gone in as deep before as that. I also went through the vortex energy of where Mother Mary appeared, which she did appear there. She's always been there. I mean, it's just a divine feminine portal point, nodal point actually, and the vortex point for it, or the spot where you feel the most intense, is sitting just below where her statue is in the grotto ledge. So if you look at pictures of Lourdes and look downwards and follow your eyes down to the floor underneath, that literally is where her vortex point is, or her vortex point. Literally, if you were walking in the grotto bit, you look up and literally her statue would be on the ledge where she appeared. That's the vortex point on the floor there, and it's sort of like, you stand in it. I've seen people when I took them on retreat, they stand there and they're just in floods of tears. But it's like an ecstatic energy, a rapture energy of immense divine love that just flows through you as you stand there. And there's always someone guarding that spot. That's really interesting to me. That the people that guard the grotto and part of the Catholic Church, they always have someone stood right where that point is. That is no coincidence. That is no coincidence. And quite often I have either started to talk to him if someone else was with me in the grotto as a group, to actually get their attention away from the spot so that my girls can walk through it. And I also set the intention, while I'm in the queue, I set the intention that I'll be able to go through that spot, so that she moves out of the way. Or there's quite often a woman guard there. They move out of the way so that you can actually stand on it. It's quite space, and the amount of conversations I've had with Mother Mary there. Of course, I've talked to Mother Mary anyway. I can do, of course, but her voice is very beautiful, and her energy there is palpable. It really is. And also Bernadette, and Bernadette is a very advanced soul. She's a universal angel herself. Bernadette, an aspect of Bernadette was trapped there and was released. It's just an amazing space and place, and they say it's for Catholics. It was there before Catholics, and it's not a Catholic place. It is there for the world. It's a divine feminine portal power point. And maybe I'll take another group next year, maybe, if they want to experience that, because I tend to do some workshop space with it as well, and it's just a phenomenal space. It's gorgeous. So yeah, I might do that for next year, is bring a group to Lourdes, because I love it. But yeah, so I spent a couple of nights at Lourdes on the way back. That really That was so special. I think that was, again, very divinely guided. They wanted me to come through Lourdes before I came home. Um, I really got some light body healing there that I needed. Like, come here into my arms. A Divine Mother really saying, come into my arms here and receive the healing that you need. Um, and it was beautiful. I really enjoyed it. I brought some Lourdes water home, and yeah, I had a couple of nights just wandering around and having a bit of French food and soaking up the atmosphere, and I always enjoy it. So um, yeah, that was good. That was good. Before I landed in the UK and then came to stay in near West Sussex, and it's another lovely friend who offered me a space after she was told by her guides, Lynn needs a space to stay. Can you do this for her, please? And very much she, this lovely friend is connected to the Councils of Light and the Great White Brotherhood as well. And yeah, I was just being given safe haven, wherever I went, which was so lovely, and so very needed, and I'm very appreciative of that, because I wasn't able to really to fully earn my money because I just wasn't capable of holding space properly. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, more in of trying to just put myself back together again, and try and uh, repair or heal that broken heart that was really broken, and fragmented with the knowledge, with the truth and reality of what you realize you were living with and in, which, and when you leave behind something, you break your heart, don't you? It partly you leave part of your heart behind. So it was sort of healing from that, and still healing from that. I'm still healing from that now, but you can imagine, you're in pieces. You that's why your daily practice and your divine tools are the only things you've got to hang on to navigate you through that corridor of time. And it was like someone was leading me into a dark cave and corridor, and tunnel. It was like a dark tunnel, and saying, you don't know when you're going to walk out of it yet. I can't tell you that, but you need to go into the tunnel to gain your liberty and freedom and sovereignty. So you need to walk into the tunnel now. And me saying, but I can't see a thing. I don't know where it's going to end. Where's the tunnel going to end up being? How am I going to find my way through? How am I going to find my way to the other side? Is there going to be light at the end of the tunnel? Or will I be in this darkness forever? But always remembering and remembering what my inner heart was saying, which was the light of your own heart space will light the way. Your heart will be the torch, and your heart will be the compass, and it will take you through the tunnel, and then the tunnel will open up and the light will be there, and boom. And it's true, it did come. The light came, and I walked out the other end. And like any initiation, anything we go through that's difficult, that's what an analogy of what we go through, isn't it, really? But that's the thing. It's clinging on to old stuff, clinging on to the old life. For all of you that are knowingly walking the path of ascension, this is what we're going to have to do, folks. We have to walk through to the unknown. We have to undo and unlearn the reality that we've grown up in that isn't real. And it's going to get a lot more crazier. It's going to get a lot more like quirkier, and a little bit like, what? And we're going to have to just learn to adapt to that. And that's why solid grounding and spiritual practice will take you through. That's what I teach, the self-mastery skills, because they're the only things that will keep you upright in this crumbling and dissolving reality that we're in right now. And it's going to get a lot crazier than this. So that's why strengthening your daily practice and getting disciplined with that will stand you in good stead when like parts of the floor fall away for you and you wonder what the hell's going on, because it has to happen to all of us. Not, I'm saying what happened to me, but in your own like lives of what needs to crumble or be taken away or left behind. And we can't cling on to our old lives forever. We can't. We came here to be those like beacons of light, and we also have to stand in the reality of the divine, not in the reality of 3D and fake news and people that don't want to wake up or who are destined to try and hang on to the old timeline, or like the Titanic, a sinking ship, and they're just hanging on and hanging on. They haven't got the courage to swim for the shore. That's what I'm getting, like it's that sort of thing. So yeah, I hope all of this makes sense. That's my lot for this week. And yeah, up your grounding techniques, up your daily practice. Hang around with the like-minded people that see what the true reality is of this world. Hang around with these people because you're going to need them in the years to come, because we're going to need to stick together. We need to stick together. Find your tribe. Find your tribe, folks. That's what I'd say. Find your tribe. And I'm finding my tribe now. I'm just been accepted as a presenter at a main event in August, talking about sovereignty, and lots of amazing speakers talking about sovereignty and the new earth, and but from a very practical standpoint, practical tools on the ground sort of people that walk their talk. So I'm really excited and delighted and grateful that I can do a big presentation there, and hopefully a workshop as well, and be there as a presence all of those days. I think 5 days in total, which I went last year as a guest, and it was just like I loved it. And lots of people like Richard Vorbles and David Adelman, who's the People's Lawyer, I think. Lots of different like caters of things. I'll be talking about divine soul sovereignty and blueprint from a divine spiritual perspective, and from the councils of light perspective. I'll be bringing that and what that means for us on a practical level. And I'm really looking forward to that. I can't wait. I'll be talking more about it nearer the time. If anybody then wants to sign up for tickets or whatever, I'll talk about that maybe next week or the week after. And I'm hoping that in the coming months I may try and start doing an odd video interview as part of Diary of a Wayshower, and bringing guests on with a full video interview, which I think will be amazing. Even if I don't get a full video interview, we have an interview like this, with sound. I think, and I'd love to get some of these people on here. So that is something that is on my wish list and my manifesting wish list and board. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening and being very patient to me wobbling on. And don't forget, I've got a new channel on YouTube called I Can Heal from Trauma and Abuse. The numbers are coming up on there, viewing figures and subscribers. And I am going to be sharing more and more videos on there. And also there are links on there to a new part of my service and work for survivors of abuse and trauma, and a new service that I will be starting to build up. So there are links on there for things particular to that and pertinent to that. So lots of love. Thank you for watching. Bye for now, and I will see you in the next episode. Okay, bye.